Awesome. So as I said, we'll just start off with just the background and then we'll get into the questions themselves. So can you please introduce yourself, John, what it is that you do here?
So I'm John Spittle. I'm the General Manager of Marketing New Zealand. So I look after the marketing, sponsorship, loyalty, events, pretty much all customer-facing aspects of the SkyCity Auckland property, and then sort of consultative support to Hamilton and Queenstown.
Awesome. Before you came to SkyCity, can you give us a bit of information on your background and how you arrived here?
Yeah, so I have a degree in English literature. So my first love is the metaphysical poets of the 18th century, which doesn't lead to much of a career. So I sort of fell into advertising for a bit. And from there I moved to visitor attractions and theme parks, which I absolutely adored. Did that for several years. Became the head of marketing and sales for Merlin Entertainments Group. At the time was a European company, 6 or 7 countries. Subsequently expanded into Asia and Australasia. Got married, moved to New Zealand, decided to give everything up and live on a beach. And after 3 weeks decided I couldn't live on a beach and I needed a job, and applied for every tourism role in New Zealand, and SkyCity had a role for a senior product manager, and it was in the gaming role. It was gaming sponsorship and entertainment, and I'd never been in a casino in my life, but felt the skills were transferable. This was 2003, so what's that, 19 years ago. Joined the industry, fell in love with it, have been in it ever since. So I was with SkyCity for 5 years, and then moved over to the UK working for Caesars Entertainment. They'd bought a whole bunch of casinos in the UK. So I worked with them setting that business up, making it profitable. Moved across to the Aspers Group, which is another casino company that's half owned by Crown. And then in 2017 decided the call of New Zealand was too much, came home and was lucky enough to get the general manager's job. So it's kind of my career in a nutshell.
Awesome. So we've got a few questions that I sent to you earlier, so we'll just roll through these ones. A follow-up guide there for if it's needed. If it's not needed, we'll make a little move.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Cool. So our first question, how would you describe this ever-growing brand Atom that is the SkyCity Entertainment Group? Yeah,
so it's at its core, it's never changed. So SkyCity came into being because Auckland was granted the permission to have a casino license, so the first casino ever in New Zealand, which was highly contentious at the time, and there was a bidding process. So casino licenses are worth a lot of money, and so if communities are going to have casinos within them, they need to ensure that it's wealth accretive for everybody. So they have a bidding process, and then they also have lots of checks and balances around how this is going to impact our community and how you're going to be a corporate citizen. And so the winning bid was Harrah's. So Harrah's turned into Caesars, but at the time it was known as Harrah's, and they partnered up with a construction company here, Briley, and they put in a bid that basically said we will create an entertainment complex, and essentially it was a casino and a hotel and a Sky Tower, and the Sky Tower was the piece that sealed the deal, because the mayor at the time, who was the mayor at the time? Who's the guy with the gyms? Les Mills. Mayor Les Mills really liked the idea of an iconic structure in Auckland, which is also contentious. So that was the germination of SkyCity. The name, in case you weren't aware, was they didn't have a name when they went into the presentation. They had Harrah's something, but Harrah's has got multiple brands, and they said we need a name which is reflective of who we are. Well, they knew their tower would be called the Sky Tower, so they went Sky Tower in SkyCity. That kind of flows, and that's the name that they went with. So that's the business that started, and that's still the core of the business today, is hotels, casino, and Sky Tower. What has happened over time as customer trends have changed and expectations have grown, the food and beverage offering has grown exponentially, the attractions offering has grown exponentially, partner brands have come on board such as Weta and All Blacks. We've developed other casinos in other markets, again pretty much on the same footprint, to the point where today you're a multifaceted entertainment precinct with casino and hotels at the core of the revenue.
I've just realised that I've printed off the wrong questions. Because I was like, I said Brand Adam, and I know that I edited Brand Adam out. Do you have the updated ones? Yes, you do.
I definitely didn't have Brand Atom on
there. Yeah, sorry, that's what I was like. That was wrong. But that's okay, we got the answer. Okay, so...
That's all right. I don't need questions in front of me.
No, sorry about that. Okay, so a follow-up question.
Yep.
How do you think your customers would answer that same question?
So we would like them to say, Sky City is a multifaceted entertainment complex with lots for everybody to do, no matter their age or their entertainment offering. What they will say is, Sky City is a casino, Federal Street's a really good dining area and a really good sort of retail outlet, and I really like the Sky Tower, and they've got some cool hotels. So they will see the sum of the parts. They won't necessarily see it as a cohesive whole.
Do you think that that difference in perspective matters or is impactful on your strategy?
Yes. As a brand marketer, it matters intensely that you have to have commonality through your product offering. And one of the conversations and sometimes the benefits of longevity in an organization, it can be a double-edged sword, but sometimes the benefits is you can have the questions brought around again. And one of the questions that keeps coming around with Sky City is, are we a branded house or are we a house of brands? And the reality is we are a branded house of brands. So if you think of Westfield, Westfield is a master brand that stands for a certain level of quality and value and substance. But you don't go shopping in Westfield because of the Westfield name. You go shopping for the Apple store, for the John Lewis store, for whatever the local equivalent is, the White and Wongs. You go for the assets within. And those sub-brands, it's actually unfair to call them sub-brands, those partner brands, have to have equity of their own. And it's the same for Sky City. You have to be able to love Marsu, or love the Sky Tower, or love the Grand Hotel, without saying, I love the casino. So the differentiation is as important as the cohesiveness.
Cool. At its core, Sky City is a casino, and casinos often have that negative association.
Yep.
How does that association play a role, if any, and how it is that you set strategies?
It plays a huge role. So as a brand, we don't start with a huge amount of goodwill and credit in the bank. So a lot of altruistic organizations or organizations that have very empathetic brand values and things that people aspire to, they have a bit of a head start, and essentially that's what brand positioning is all about. It's trying to give yourself that competitive edge in the fields. We have to work twice as hard to get to the starting point because our product has a stigma attached to it. And our industry has a suit. It's no different from us from other industries such as I guess horse racing or alcohol are two obvious ones that they talk about, but it has to inform your position because it also informs your output because you have to be 100% honest and upfront because the expectation of the industry as a whole is you probably won't be.
Are you able to give us an example of how that's played out in some of your marketing tactics?
Yeah, so our promotions don't overpromise. Our promotions don't seek to confuse. Our promotions and our marketing activity tries to be clear and transparent at all times. It is a legislative requirement, but it is also common practice for us. Whereas if you were to look at the online industry, it's probably a good example from overseas. Join today, get this bonus, but actually the bonus doesn't pay out till you've turned over $500 or whatever. There's a lot of small print, to get people into that relationship. We don't do that. We don't seek to confuse. I guess telecoms is another industry. In fact, famously in the UK, one of the telco providers said, our marketing is designed to confuse. We have multiple levels of tariffs, so people end up on the wrong one. I mean, it's a case from a few years ago. We're the antithesis of that. We've got to be clear and straightforward.
Cool. Because Sky City has so many different touch points under its brand umbrella, for example, the casino, Sky Tower, the signature restaurants, customers for each of those look and behave differently. How do you manage customer strategy given these differences?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's one of the really challenging things is there is no typical customer for casino. The only common denominator is they're over 20 years of age. And And so every age, every ethnicity, every background, every characteristic you could think of can be represented in that mass market. The other brands are a bit more self-selective, and often that's done on price point, and that's done on sort of market positioning and so on and so forth. We take a kind of an interesting approach to our customer base, because we filter by personality, we filter by socioeconomic profile, we filter by behavioral use of products, and then we also filter by value. So, but we only really do that in the gaming space. So we're yet to have that fully 360 customer view. But of the view that we have lots of different criteria, and they can be competing, because you can have, I always use this example of my 80-year-old mother, is a happy pokey player and will happily sit next to my 25-year-old Asian cousin, and they have the same characteristics through one lens, and they're poles apart through another lens.
When we look at the market structure of the casino industry within New Zealand, would you say that SkyCity operates in a oligopoly, and that we still have some local players, but to a lesser degree? Or would you say, given our position, our size, that we effectively are the monopoly? So
if it's land-based casino gaming, we are the monopoly. There is no alternative, aside from Christchurch and Dunedin, that isn't SkyCity owned in the country. So for land-based casino gaming, we are 100% the monopoly, well, not 90% monopoly. If you take the product category, so slot machines, pokies, we're half of the market. We have about half the market share, and pubs and clubs have the other half of the market share. But they are a very diverse regional business where we're a single entity, but it kind of splits 50-50. If you extend it to wagering, and that would include TAB, then it's a very different picture again. If you extend it to Lotto and Scratchies, we become a much smaller player. And if you extend it to online, you kind of lose track of what size the market is, because it's not regulated, so it's actually not recorded.
So, there's a lot of different positions that we could take within SkyCity.
Yeah.
How does that, consideration of different positions factor into the marketing strategy, specifically for the casino marketing effort? So
we see ourselves in my team as a local and domestic focused business. We have an international arm, and that tends to be more one-on-one player relationships, but we have a job to be in the consideration set of anybody who is viable for any of our product suite. So at a market level, we are promoting SkyCity Precinct, and sometimes that's the whole, and sometimes it's bits of the whole individually. But the strategy is that if you are considering a physical entertainment-based experience, because we are physical, as in you have to get off the sofa and come here, you can't just put a code in on Netflix or whatever, then we want to be in your consideration set. So whether it's a meal, whether it's a drink, whether it's a theatre show, whether it's just a night out with friends, we want to be on your list. So that's why that informs our marketing strategy, to be there in that consideration set.
And the next question is going to go into that 4 to 5 forces. So if this is something you feel you're not going to answer, we can...
No, I'm happy to talk about it, but you're going to have to remind me of them.
So when we look to 4 to 5 forces and the key areas for the marketing strategy for SkyCity Casino, we're in that fortunate position in that government regulation essentially rules out the threat of new entrants to us in that casino sense.
Yes.
You can make an argument that the bargaining power of suppliers is significantly reduced as well, because there's not too many alternatives for them to go to. Which kind of leaves us with 2 core factors that Porter identifies. So which do you feel guides your strategic decisions more? The power of customers or the threat of substitute?
It's actually both, as it always is. I would just get back on the bargaining power of suppliers. We are not a major player in the gaming product market. So we're actually, in terms of the number of machines we buy and the frequency we buy them, compared to Australia, compared to Asia and compared to America, we're actually quite a small fish in the global pond. So actually the people who are selling to us, the suppliers, they have a power over our product mix, which is quite strong. Within our local marketing, and I guess our local area, The biggest threat we have is that we fall out of vogue because the market changes and we don't have a backup option which can substitute seamlessly from what we do. Hence sort of the steps into the online market, because that is another related industry. But if gaming at physical venues goes the way of renting VHSs from a store with a blue and yellow sign, or taking a photographic film to a chemist to have photos developed, this business doesn't have a backup for that core product. So that's its risk. So that is customer-based risk.
Cool. So we'll get on to a creative question. Now this will be good for you because another girl is actually interviewing the CMO of Lotto.
Oh, great.
So
cool.
I was like, fantastic. We'll be able to have this proper question.
Their creative is wonderful.
Yes. They're allowed to do it.
Yes.
So Sky City is fortunate to have both an in-house creative as well as an ongoing relationship with an external advertising agency.
Yep.
When it comes to our advertising, how do you determine what's in-house, what's external?
So at a most rudimentary level, if I am paying for above-the-line media, I am investing in campaigns to reach specific targeted markets, I want a specialist agency who knows how to do that as efficiently and as accurately as they can to be in charge. In-house resource for me is about speed and convenience. So, we produce a lot of collateral, an enormous amount of point of sale, posters, menu, I don't need to tell you. We produce loads of it. It wouldn't be economically viable to outsource all of that to a third-party agency. It would take longer, it would cost more money, it would be a slower process. So having the ability to do that in-house is vital for a 24/7 organization like ours. But the skills that allow you to do that are not the same skills that allows you to know how many words you put on a billboard to maximize recall and impact, but also minimize the copy, logo size, etc., etc. It's a specialist industry, and that's how I kind of make the difference.
Cool. So we know that within gaming advertising, there are a lot of rules about what we can and what we can't do. How do you achieve creativity within this regulated industry?
So you start with a brief. What am I trying to actually, you don't start with what am I trying to convey. You start with what am I wanting the recipient of this advertising to see, think, or do, and what is the best way to make them do that. So you start with a creative brief. The rules and regulations are not there to hold us up or hinder us. The rules and regulations are there to ensure that we are fair and we are accurate and we are honest. And my philosophy is, if you are a marketer who doesn't want to be fair or accurate or honest, you shouldn't be in marketing. You should be in PR. No, I'm kidding. You shouldn't be in PR, but you shouldn't be in marketing because that's not the right way of doing business. You never get long-term value by tricking your customers and cheating people. It just doesn't work. If you're in and out and you don't really care, or you have a business where your customer base is highly transitory, so doesn't come back, you can be rougher with them, for want of a better expression. You can just squeeze more out of them. But when you want to be part of your community, you've got to act like a member of that community, and so you've got to be fair and honest. And your advertising's got to reflect what you stand for. So there should be no issues. Where it stifles creativity is there's things you want to do because they're human truths. So you kind of want to say sitting at a blackjack table makes you feel like James Bond. You want to say driving away in an Aston Martin makes you feel like $1 million. You want to say that, it's a place full of cool, glamorous people, because all advertising kind of dials it up to 11. Just look at the McDonald's in the TV ads and the McDonald's in the box, right? We just have to be very careful that we don't create false, because of the nature of the product. We cannot risk trying to suggest to people it's going to give them more than it's going to give them. That's the yardstick we have to follow.
Cool. With regards to that triple bottom line, and you've touched on it a couple of times here, how does that harm minimisation, or I guess our social role, alter your marketing tactics?
Well, I would like it to be as upfront and visible as everything else that we do. I would like it to be a brand value that we promote. But if you're going to do that, you've got to do it consistently over time, and you've got to stick with it. Consistency and authenticity, genuine, approach is the one you have to take, because there is always, going back to that, you don't start at zero. There's always that assumption that you're a casino, you're out to take everybody's money. Of course you're going to be tricksy. Of course you're going to be, a little bit dodgy. So, and there's an element of you would say that, wouldn't you? So if you go out with host res, harm minimization, horrible phrase, but virtue signaling, you're not very believable. You've just got to do it and hope that it rises to the surface over time.
So this is the one that we'll probably have to be a little bit cautious about how we answer it. SkyCity is currently pursuing omnichannel as one of its core strategy focuses. This is new ground not just for SkyCity but for gaming regulation in New Zealand itself.
Correct.
How do you define omnichannel?
So I don't define omnichannel as online gaming. I define omnichannel as every single touch point that we could have with our customers is at our disposal to understand more about our customers. So I can reach my customer through a TV screen, through a radio speaker, through their social and digital footprint, through billboards on the street, etc., etc. If I can put all of that together, and if I have the data points that allow me to interact with you as a customer through any medium at any time, that is an omni-channel marketing approach. The opposite of that is I fire a bullet, I fire a bullet, I fire a bullet, and all the bullets are from different parts of the marketing strategy, and they never come together. So that's how I view omni-channel. Online strategy is more about there is a business, a sister business to what we do in land-based gaming, which is the same business but in the virtual world, which is online gaming. All of the criteria that informs land-based gaming informs online gaming. All of the rules and the responsibilities, and I think it's important that it's responsibilities, not restrictions, the responsibilities should inform online gaming as well. And there is clearly an obvious crossover and synergy for a brand that is well known in this area to be a brand that is well known in the other area. And the market exists. There is a latent online gaming market of considerable value in New Zealand. We would like to be a player in that market because it brings the two sides of the business together.
Cool. So if SkyCity was successful in their online bid, how would you be looking to adjust your organisational resources to be able to deliver this?
Well, you would turn it on its head, but you wouldn't lose what you do today in land-based gaming, because there's always a market for land-based gaming as well as online. In other roles where we've developed an online offering, and my experiences in the UK in this, they are actually complementary partners. You don't tend to steal share off each other because they're quite different occasions, and there's quite different ways of actually using the product, times of day, length of play, these are different because you're through a device and you can be sat on your settee watching the telly and media stacking at the same time, whereas with land-based business you can't. But what we would need to do, so the online business is 100% data driven because there is no physical product. I mean, there are live tables, and for a lot of online casinos, they're in a big warehouse somewhere with multiple dealers representing multiple brands. But it's a digital product. So your knowledge of your customer is entirely driven through their keystrokes and their transactional information. So you know everything about them in terms of their digital gaming footprint or fingerprint. You don't know anything about the rest of their life. Outside of some key financial measures and things you need to know, but you don't really know much about them because you don't ever see or engage with them. So it's the flip side of what we do in some respects. But if you marry the two together, what you get is a holistic single customer view. And that is, again, omnichannel, because you get to see people in the round. So in order to have a business which could put together a highly data-driven online, but quite narrow-focused online customer view with a very, very broad, but not particularly sophisticated land-based view. It's a bit like trying to marry a analog watch and a digital watch. You can make a digital watch look analog, but you can't turn an analog watch digital. So we'd have to turn it on its head and go digital first.
Cool. I'm going to deviate from the questions here.
Go for
You
it.
brought up a data point that we touched on in class a little bit. So have you ever heard the term signal to noise?
No.
So it was a research piece that was done with horse racing,
Right.
where scientists gave participants who were gambling more and more information about the horses that they were betting on.
Yeah.
And as they increased the amount of data points that they gave to the people, the
Yeah.
accuracy of the resulting bets reduced because people weren't able to filter out in terms of the data.
They got too much.
What was relevant and what wasn't relevant.
Stands
so when
to
you
reason.
talk about this digital landscape and the amount and sheer volume and importance, I guess, of
Yeah.
that role that data takes, how do you filter what's appropriate, what's relevant, what's important? Is
So-
there a process?
Yes, there is, and people get it wrong all the time because you can get easily into a mindset of more data. Starting to sound like a Kiwi now. More data leads to more insights. It can lead to less. The phrase, and paralysis by analysis comes to mind. You need to have really, really good dashboards, and you need to have a user interface which makes them intuitive and simple to use, and you need to only track the information that you need to make a decision. And that's why they call it a dashboard. What speed am I going? Because if I go over that, I'm going to get a ticket. How much fuel is in the tank? Because if I go below that, my car stops running. The rest of it, you don't look at really until you need it. That's hence warning lights and things. Marketing dashboards and data dashboards should follow the principle of a dashboard. What do I need to keep moving forward? And then what kicks in when I need to know there's a problem? And designing your dashboard dictates the data feed. Too often, businesses start from there's all of this data available, let's throw it all up there and see what it shows us. And what it shows you is the Matrix. The scene from the Matrix where it's like number.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy going, I see the blue dress, I see the guy in the black shirt. You've got to see the picture through the data.
Cool. I guess that leads us nicely into the next one. So Scarcity is fortunate that our loyalty program, our products, our operational investments, it makes us a very data-rich company, as you pointed out.
Yeah.
So when it comes to consumers, how are your marketing team utilising this data within your strategy?
Yeah, so really it's segmentation based. And so we've gone from macro segmentation to micro segmentation. We've kept macro segmentation. If you have a certain level of spend, you'll get a different coloured card. A different coloured card gives you different benefits, and a certain level of status gives you access to private rooms and a level of comping and recognition, etc., etc. So that's a macro level. That's a sort of loyalty scheme 101. Within those data sets now, we are much better at micro-targeting. So, if a customer has a visitation frequency pattern and it's set, don't try and change it. They're happy with what they're doing. If they have a play level and they're comfortable with the play level, leave them at the play level. And so it used to be a one-size-fits-all approach to loyalty comms, and problem with one-size-fits-all is it has to be so big it fits nobody. And so what we now go for is multiple offers to micro segments, but still within the sort of overarching architecture of a broad-based sort of loyalty program.
So we've talked about the opportunity this environment provides for that transition from CRM to CXM.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two?
Well, so CRM is about using all the information you can gather on your customers to give them things which fit their profile. So it's a kind of a delivery mechanism. I know you like chips. Here's chips, or have money off chips. CXM becomes far more immersive in I know you like chips, so when you walk in the store today, I'm going to sell you vinegar because vinegar goes really well with chips. So and because you like this, I'm changing your physical experience to give you things that I know that you like. So that the X being the customer experience. So one of the best examples of this is some work that Carnival Cruise Lines did with their Ocean Medallion. So they went fully digital on board a couple of their cruise ships, and they would information gather, data capture right at the start of booking, so they knew everything that the customer said with